And today I'm going to be interviewing men's assistant soccer coach John Nash. Thanks for joining us today, John.
No problem.
It's good to be here again. What initially made you stick around to become assistant coach here at Nichols after you graduated?
During the season, my senior year, the head coach, Coach Traina, asked me, he's like, I don't know what you're doing after you graduate, but I'd love to have you stick around to be an assistant coach, you know the guys. And I'm like, yeah, I'll think about it. And then as the year kept going along, he sent me an email. He's like, would you still be interested? And I was having a tough time finding a job, so finally I'm like, yeah, sure, I think it'd be a good experience for me because eventually someday I'd like to be a coach.
So how has your experience been so far as an assistant coach?
It's been good. Last year we made the playoffs for the first time since I was a freshman here, and this year was a little rough, but I have a feeling it's going to get a lot better real soon, as long as, I'm still around, hopefully.
Can you go over some of the highlights of the season?
Well, we didn't have a lot of wins, but some of the highlights were that we won our tournament at the beginning of the season down at Alberta Spagnas College. We beat Mitchell College and Mount St. Mary's to be the champions. And two of the biggest games that we had this year, homecoming and senior night, we were able to win, and it was especially sweet on senior night because one of our captains scored the second goal to solidify the W.
Now, I've heard some things about the injury bug plaguing your team this year. Can you discuss that with us a little
bit? Oh, yeah. There's probably at least 75% of the guys that missed time during the season because of injuries. I mean, we only had two goalies, and one of our goalies dislocated his knee right during the second week of the season, so we only had one goalie all year. And all three of our captains missed time at some point or the other during the season because of injuries and whatnot. So it was a pretty tough year for that.
So what are some of the things that the team needs to work on for next season?
One thing the team needs to work on is communication out on the field. I mean, we talk a lot during practice, and I mean, all the guys are close with one another, but the one thing we need to work on during games is communication. I mean, if one guy's open, he doesn't open his mouth, and he can't get the ball, and so that's one thing we need to work on. And another thing we need to work on is shooting, because last year, I think we only scored half as many goals this year as we did last year. And one reason for that is we don't take enough shots. I mean, we have the opportunities, but some of the guys just don't want to take those opportunities and try to score the goals. They want to just pass it, dribbling all the way and try to get the easy one.
I'm sure some of the stretches this season were tough with you have such a young group of guys with only 4 seniors, and you mentioned only 4 juniors. How do you think the young guys handled the pressure of being thrown in the fire right away?
I think they handled it pretty well. I mean, we had probably 4 or 5 guys that started a lot of games, and also a couple others that had significant time out there. I mean, one thing they did is they earned confidence for the next 3 years. I mean, some of these guys are going to be starters right away next year. So, I mean, if getting all that time this year is just going to help them out in the future.
So with all the young guys coming back, how much recruiting are you going to have to do for next season?
Well, me and Coach Traina have already talked about it, and we want to bring in at least one other goalie because, I mean, this year with only one, and we don't know what's going to happen next year. And we also want to bring in a couple of defenders because one of our captains, Ron Johnson, was a huge part of our team, and we're solidified the back. And we want to bring in a guy that's just like him. And also we want to bring in a couple of goal scorers. So, because this year, I mean, we have a couple, but they're young. So hopefully next year, I mean, if we bring in a couple more, then we can just spread it out more and hopefully score more goals.
So what are your expectations for next year?
Our expectations next year, I mean, this year we finished in, I think, 10th place. And we have a group of guys who could end up getting in between 4th, 5th, and 6th, and hopefully getting a home game for the playoffs next year. or at least, making a name for ourselves in postseason play. I think it'll definitely be different than this year was because of I don't think we'll have that many injuries, and hopefully with all the guys we bring in, we'll just make our team stronger.
All right. So now that the season's over, what are some of the things that you're going to be doing now while in the office and other?
Well, now, our last game was just on Saturday, so for the next couple weeks, all the high schools around the area in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, they're all finishing up their seasons and going into postseason play. So during the next couple weeks, I'll be going all over the place, from Western Mass to Southern Connecticut to Rhode Island, just looking at all the seniors. I mean, some of the seniors have inquired about Nichols, and we want to go check out, see if they're players or not. And we'll just go to other games blind to see if there's anyone who's good enough to play here or might be interested to play here. And then after that, there's the senior all-star games in Western Mass, Central Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island. So we'll hit up all the senior all-star games to see if there's any players there. And then finally, towards the middle of November, there's some soccer showcases. I mean, Coach has already talked to me about him going to Maryland for one and me going to Pennsylvania for one. So that's looking like the rest of the year for us. And then towards next in 2008, we'll try to see some kids in the spring, and that'll be the end of our recruiting, and we'll start our spring practices in March.
Any favorite place to recruit for you?
The favorite place I've been was going down to Delaware the first year I started, and I actually ended up talking to a couple guys. They ended up not coming, but it was a good experience for me, going that far by myself on my first trip. So I enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, I'd like to thank John Nash for coming in today for the interview. Thanks for stopping in, and we'll see you next week.
I said hallelujah.